Hey, we are live. Oh man, I am here. Bash the like button. We'll start that for people just joining. Rate my rig here. Actually, let's get an overhead of the rig, because look at the joy that is this pile of parts. And this is our custom 3D printed hard drive holder. Oh, now it's crap. Now there's wires tangled under it. And this fan that's running under it is keeping it cool. We'll actually go back from the front here, because you got to have, look at all them drives. And we realized that plastic is not a good heat sink. So first problem we ran into is the drives overheated. So yeah, MD5, hash that like button. There we go. So anyways, we'll start out with some hot sauce, and we'll jump right into a couple different things. Excuse me. I think this needs to be turned off. No, that's fine. I think has anyone messaged me? Oh, that's my son. My son can watch me on my live stream if he wants to know what I'm doing. Anyways, back to that. So, welcome to Vlog Thursday. We'll start out with some hot sauce. Today's sauce is held over our rig here is pineapple habanero. This is the Bravado Spice Company. They make some really good stuff here. So I have bread. For those of you that don't like the crunchy noises, mysophobia, that's me for sure. Oh, someone's asking, are there going to be lawsuits over the SMR thing? No, I doubt it. I don't think any lawyers would waste their time trying to convince the judge of something so non-technical. Oh, wow. This is like dessert. I want more now. Pineapples are like a wonderful fruit, and so are habaneros. So when you put pineapple and habanero together, happy stuff. That's really good. It's spicy. My bottle, I'm going to lick it. It's my personal bottle here. Anyways, now we can talk about other things now that I've warmed up my mouth. Oh. And pineapple habanero there. Power efficient 1U PF Sense. Honestly, you can find some of the super micro ones that are 1U that are relatively inexpensive. I've done a video once with one of those, but the real power efficient ones are actually the Netgate SG5100 if you did that one. But I don't know what your budget is, so I'm throwing numbers out there. You can build a PF Sense on almost anything. So that's the reality, that's the truth of that there. So it doesn't really matter. But we're going to talk FreeNAS mostly today. And well, actually, I'm going to pull up a tweet that Western Digital tagged me in. So where did that go? It seems like a good place to start. Not that we haven't had enough talk about SMR drives, but hey, why not? So we'll put these over here. All right. So on WD Red NAS drives. Now this is Western Digital actually tagged me in a tweet, and I retweeted it. And it says, hey, Tom, just want to know that we've updated our blog post with some new information and more to come. And my bigger status on this, one, I don't like any company that deceives me, that doesn't tell me up front what this was. So the fact that they chose to put, even though they claim it works, the amount of people complaining about this and the results that seem to be pretty solid on here shows us that there's some serious issues with using that type of drive technology on drives. But this is all I'm really asking for. Put it on the drive. Now that we have this information and we know it doesn't work, please list which drives have this in there. That's all we want to know. Now that we know this information, we can avoid them if they're a choice we don't want to make. If we think the cost savings is there and we want to use them as standalone drives, awesome. But an informed consumer decision can be made on this. And trust me, companies that have packaged these Synology, FreeNAS, IX Systems, any company that shipped hard drives that, well, they're generally going to ship enterprise drives, but still, if they're a lower cost NAS build, they're not expecting this technology to be in there. So everyone keeps saying class action, class action. Yeah, cool. Get your $5 rebate in the mail off your Western Digital hard drive or something. I mean, it's not that I don't think class action lawsuits aren't effective in certain circumstances, but think about the technical challenges of getting a judge to understand that Western Digital, who's going to provide expert testimony and evidence that they tested these in NAS scenarios, and somebody with a big pile of drives going, no, when I rebuild my RAID in this scenario does this in expert testimony, and no offense to our legal system, but technical things are not always handled very well. So I don't know that it would be a really effective and convincing, compelling case. Not that I think it shouldn't happen type thing, more of a, I don't know it'd be cool, but they're not going to send you a new drive. It'd be great if they did. If I thought the outcome was new drive, yes. So, yeah, I mean, it really depends on just if they can pull this off. And it's not like it's about them labeling the drives versus them willfully deceiving. So they didn't try to say it's one thing then another. They omitted the information that we had to run out and discover, versus some companies got in trouble for not omitting, but actually false information. This isn't false. They didn't have anywhere where it was written on the drive it's a CMR, but it's actually an SMR with a label stuck over it. The drive wasn't labeled, hence the challenge in finding these. But based on what I'm seeing here from Western Digital, it looks like, back over to here, I'm holding in my 3.5-inch WD Blue 2 terabyte. Oh, this is a 1 terabyte, so it's going to be CMR. But apparently if I was holding a 2 terabyte one, it would be a SMR. So, I mean, I just want some labeling on things. So don't hide it. Leave it exposed inside the smart drive. That's just obscuring information. It's different than false advertising. But you can see where this is kind of a challenge to figure out. Hey, maybe a class action lawsuit. I mean, I'm no lawyer by any measure. So maybe someone will understand the law better and maybe there's an angle. I'm just not, from my layman's perspective of the law, they just didn't disclose it, but they didn't lie about the fact that the technology, they made the claim it worked in NAS. So it's kind of more of you sold a drive that probably won't do what it says, but it's a matter of figuring out who's expert testimony. We obviously know it won't do that. I know that, and many of the people on the other side of this camera know that yeah, it won't do the thing. It will not properly work in a RAID array, but how do you turn it into a legal armament? I'm just playing the more realistic that. But maybe I'm wrong, and maybe some lawyer will go into this, and yeah, it's just a thing. So what does SMR CMR mean for the WD Blues? I would say with the I would say for, like, if you're using this in a single drive scenario, it's probably not a really big deal. It's a way to get the drive costs down for those. But the reality is, not many people, I mean, probably a lot in the market, but when you're buying a new computer, generally speaking, most of the new systems come with some, SSD, solid state drive on there. So it's kind of becoming moot point. I don't think it's going forward. It's not that many systems. Anyone who's buying a decent computer, I should say, I'm sure there's still some low end crap out there that this might be an issue. But Willie's got some 4 TB Reds, but are they the Red Pro? That's the question. Just messaging back Xavier. So, anyways, which ones are they, Willie? Are they the Pro or are they just the standard Reds? That's the real question here. So, yeah, shucked drives. Yeah, the standard Red, you're at risk. So if you look at the standard Red, Willie, and let me close what I have open over here. If we're looking at the standard Reds, WD Reds, the this is interesting because this is where I got confused. They're claiming that the standard Reds are SMR. So I guess you must have them. It doesn't have the years on here. So unfortunately, you may have some. If you have standard Reds, they are going to be SMR, not CMR. That might be a long-term problem. It's not a short-term problem. It's a long-term problem. So that's going to be interesting. So Willie, I have bad news for you. Standard 4 TB. That's not good. Yeah, they seem to have switched them. That's it depends on when you bought them, too. So definitely a challenge there. So that definitely going to be a problem for people in the future because, and I covered that in a video where the challenge is when the read-write tracks get lined up and some of those problems and things like that. You know what I was going to do and I didn't? So I have a handful of hard drives here, but I was also going to add to the pile. And I have some really old hard drives. As a matter of fact, let's grab one real quick. I'll be right, just 1 second. So how quick can someone identify this drive? So actually, we'll do it from the overhead camera so we can get a closer look at it. How's that drive format look? So definitely, we'll pull this, get a little closer here. We had some recycling stuff came in, and these are, yeah, these are crazy. I kind of want to see if I can find, I still have some old Adaptec controllers, and I want to see if maybe these, like, how well do these work? It doesn't even have the size written on them, I don't think. Yeah, it doesn't. Nope. But I thought maybe for old time's sake, or maybe I'll pull some of these apart, and I want to compare the internal guts to a modern drive, and that might be kind of interesting as well. So that's going to be, I was going to do some of that on here where I pulled apart. So I have a couple even older drives that are on my shelf. They're just ones I've kept around. I've also got one of those, if you recall, the Bigfoot drives. The Bigfoot drive is hanging over on the wall in a bag, and it's the counterbalance to my boom swing. When I need to use an overhead camera on a boom swing, you have to have a counterweight. So I used the counterweight was the the Western Digital Bigfoot, or yeah, was it Western? Who made the Bigfoot drive? I can't remember now. It wasn't Western Digital, was it? It was Quantum. Quantum made the Bigfoots. Anyways. Oh, man. Old stuff. Yeah. I wonder how many watts each one of those drives uses. That would be pretty wild, too. Yep, someone said it right there, Quantum hard drive. So, FreeNAS is what we wanted to dive a little bit more into, and that's why we have this really custom built, including 3D printed parts with a fan just sitting here. Because we overheated them before. Yeah, the Bigfoot for Pizza Hut. I have a series of FreeNAS videos I'm going to be doing. I just released a video because I never really tried this, but I realized you can install Phoronix. And one of the challenges you run into is the nice box behind me, which is a Dell R730XD with 26 hard drives in it. It's turned off because it's noisy, but it does have 26 hard drives in it. So that has 26 drives, 10,000 RPM spinning Rust drives, and we want to do some performance testing on it. And the performance testing would probably exceed the 10 gig connection I had, so I wanted to run Phoronix in a jail so I could test it. But then I said, well, why not compare it to this one? And once I built the jail with Phoronix in it, I did that video about how to move the jails back and forth and duplicate them on different pools of FreeNAS. Also, how you can back up a jail and just drop it back on another FreeNAS system. So just using several eBay 3 terabyte HDD SAS drives, yeah, for sure, you can definitely do that. We're getting ready to rebuild all of our FreeNAS stuff here at the office too. That's part of what's leading to this. I've got old FreeNAS and new FreeNAS. We have a few FreeNAS servers because of all the ways we replicate data, and so I'm going to get some of that going. But there's going to be a video coming by this weekend on the R730. Because first thing I want to do is finish the video on this one here. But while it's all stood up and playing with it, why not log into it? So we've talked about the SMR drives. These are not SMR. These are all Seagate Constellation drives in here. They work pretty well. Haven't had any problems with them. They're not incredibly fast, but that's kind of what the point was, is just to hodgepodge together a build. And then we're going to do some torture testing on it. That's why I wanted it all out like this, so I can just pop things in and out and show you how you can build it. Also, we built this system with only 8 gigs of RAM, so it's not particularly, it's not like we overbuilt this by any measure. So we'll actually go over here and look at the pool, storage pool. And one of the things we're going to do right now is we'll start this back off and break the pool. And so, well, not going to break it. Go to the status of the pool. So right here are those 5 drives and Seagate Constellations, and we have 1 drive for cache. We're actually going to go ahead and just drop the cache drive out of this. Because someone said you can't remove a cache drive while the system is running, and I said, well, not only can you do that, we'll go over here real quick. Actually, let me log into it. This is Debian on Studio FreeNAS. This is Studio FreeNAS right here, the one on the table. And the disk is running on the FreeNAS i7 Studio table and literally up and running. So here's this particular server. Oh, by the way, there's apparently someone commenting on my YouTube. I can't believe you ran your demos as root. Okay, I don't... They've commented on like 3 of my videos. Anyone I run a demo as root, they've commented. So right here, what you see is, if you can see the screen on this, and actually, I'll zoom it in a little bit. But this system's running, and we were able to get a brief bursted write speed of about 640 megs a second. And let's go ahead and add the cache back on this. And actually, let's also log into it with SSH because it just looks better. So what we need to do is we're going to take the drives here. And I've color-coded some of this when we overhead. So we've got, these drives are live. This drive is a smaller one we're going to use for the ZIL writing. This red cable is the cache, which is actually, we'll slide this a little closer, a SanDisk SSD, and below is all of the actual drives that are those Seagate 1 gig Constellation drives. Kind of gives you an idea of the layout that we have right here. So we're actually going to unplug some of these drives in real time, because that's what I got accused of, like video editing or something on the other one when I said it'll survive this. Or like, no, it won't, and FreeNAS won't do this or do that. That's fine. We also have this array encrypted, and I did it encrypted on purpose. That way I could show what happens with encrypted arrays when you do this, because I want to make sure we're making it as complicated as possible for the highest risk of failure with a demo. And of course, doing it live means you guys can watch me do it. So built this system with rock and roll, absolutely. Slams drives on table, like just old drives. We have so many. I have here, because one of the things we're going to do in another video, this is a brick of 3.5 drives that we pulled. We're going to do a live RAID expansion. I don't have enough cables. Well, maybe I do, to do a live RAID expansion right now. You can expand arrays without rebooting. I've covered this in 2018. I'm going to cover what an unbalanced VDEV looks like, and that's actually something you can do in FreeNAS. It's another way to expand the system and add more drives to it without rebuilding the array, but it's a one-way operation. And when you have a unbalanced VDEV, it will slow down, unfortunately, to the slower drives in the pool because of the way it distributes the writes. And the reads, when it's unbalanced, can be interesting. So it's harder to predict performance, but your reliability is still there, which if your goal is just to have more storage and reliable storage, it's great. If you're trying to build a performance machine, not a good idea. But it's, of course, a lot of people are just going, I just need a place to put more data. Then we have the solution for you with building a bunch of mismatched VDEVs and letting FreeNAS figure it out and showing how that works. So that's going to be a fun, when we get to that part of the project, is fun. Today's part of the project is SSHing into this thing so I can get that part of things done. So let me open up this. We're going to do it all as root. So if that person's watching who keeps commenting, I don't think you should run things as root. I'm running this as root. uh, 3.131.31. All right, cool. I'm logged in. So I'm logged into that machine, and we're going to rename it to, let me switch to this, host name, and we're just going to let's call it live demo. Why not? Live demo. Crap. There we go. We'll go ahead and reboot it for the, whoop. I'm having typo problems. Now I got to move the keyboard over a little bit, but we'll watch this system reboot right here. So it is running on these hard drives. It's booting up, and it's going to have its new name here. So I guess it'll, for those of you that think there's video editing involved in this, this is all live, so there's not. But we're going to go ahead and break and pull things out of the hard drive and see what happens. Now, one thing we're going to do for sure is I am going to make a snapshot. And the only reason I'm going to do that is because of expediency. In the event that any of this goes wrong, I will be able to roll back. And I'm not saying, and I would never say, that you can randomly pull hard drives out with no ill effects. Sometimes things go wrong. But FreeNAS offers a lot of protections for that. And that's what we're going to see, is where we're going to watch all the protections work in real time here for this demo. So there's our aptly named live demo system. And we'll SSH back into it. And make sure it can do it right. We'll do that little speed test again. And all this really does, it's not accurate. It just writes and slaps some data over onto the drive here. So little speed test, cool. We copied it. It's about 600 megs a second. Not terrible for these drives here. We're going to split the screen though. Root at, and this is our FreeNAS, is at 192.168.3.209. And I should fix that. Whoops. I did rebuild it already completely once, so the key changed. All right. Stat-v1. And you can watch the data going by as these write. So if we go over here and we run that speed test again, you can see all the writes being distributed across the drives. Pretty straightforward there. Actually, let me catch up and answer on a few questions for you guys. Everything I'm saying making sense here? Host name control. I guess I could do that. Zen versus Proxmox. I've already did that video. Use Google. I did a Zen versus Proxmox. So, all right. Back to the hardware here that's running. And we're going to pull up some stats over here too. So we're going to go over here to storage. We'll leave the stats menu up over here. And it's up over here. But now we've seen the test and we know we're getting in the 600 megs and blah, blah, blahs for the drive reading. So let's add and extend another drive to this, specifically the cache drive. So if we go over here and we want to extend, whoops, that is not the right button. I almost destroyed the pool. There's several confirmations before you destroy a pool. And what we want to do here is we want to add a cache. And we'll add this cache. This 240 gig drive happens to be the this one this SanDisk right up here on top. So you go down here, add to cache. Now I'm gonna say, and it's gonna have a message here, so we're gonna hit extend, confirm extend the pool. Takes a second to extend it. Now what it had to do, and this is why I did this encrypted to show, because I really recommend you run all your drives encrypted. That way if you ever have to send one back, you never have to worry about any data on there. And people say, well, isn't it a bunch of overhead? Trust me, if you have a modern board with AES-NI and you have the modern crypto that's in the newest version of FreeNAS, there's barely any noticeable overhead. It's so negligible. versus losing data or having potential privacy if you have to have a drive sent back under warranty because some crappy company sent you a CMR drive and you want a replacement. So anyways, in between, and we'll even show it, the system still is completely running. The only thing that's changed now, let me stop this and restart it, is now on here at the bottom, do you notice we have a cache drive? And we can see what is in the cache drive. So let's go ahead and run this again. And it got a little bit better. We've seen 648. And what that did was, this little speed test, we'll just run through it real quick. It's just grabbing and writing out a 0 file and seeing how fast it can write out some 0 files and pull it back. It's just a really simple thing. It's not anything complex. But let's go ahead and talk about FreeNAS because we have that on here. And let's do like a real test and do something more intense. Bench. Is it PTS/IO zone? There we go. So let's kick off something that's actually going to push things a little bit further. It's got FreeNAS is actually kind of a slick software for testing because it'll look for updates and it'll download the updates and do them before you run the test automatically. 2 gig file and 3. So 2, 2, 3. I don't care about saving the results. And we'll just let this hammer away in the background, and while we're at it, we'll watch this happen over here. So here the drives are. They're getting beat up a little bit. And the FreeNAS is a much more in-depth test because it's going to do things like try to exhaust the cache. It's going to read and write much harder to the drive. We're going to see what kind of cache hits and reads we're getting over here. And while that's running, and this is running in the background, let's go over here. And this will give you a better idea of what kind of speeds we're seeing over here. So as these peak and valleys move up, we're seeing, I know my face is in the way for it, so let me slide this over. About 433, so not bad. Now, I like to look at the stats here when I'm trying to determine it because I want to know what kind of performance I'm getting in terms of real performance behind any of the caching performance. And that's what this will give you over here. What we're really seeing is the system transfer here, not just what the VM sees. Now the VM, over here, we're going to go to the VMs, stats. It's going to see different numbers again because of other I/O things that are going on, and we can see how much processor usage that sees. And then we can go back over to FreeNAS, and we're going to go over here, look at the reporting. We'll go over to ZFS. And what you're seeing is me removing the cache right here, then me adding the cache back. This is what the little the orange line at the bottom is the cache. And this was me doing testing that made me late 2 minutes to start the show because I was over here testing where it is. Now, ideally, if you're presented with two options of either do I want to add more cache to the system, as in more RAM, or more of the level 2 cache, which is a hard drive, more RAM is always going to be much more effective. So the more you can stick in memory, the faster it gets because memory is substantially faster than that. So anyways, these tests are still running over here, still cranking away, and we'll see what kind of results we get. But why not do something fun while we're at it? So switch to the overhead. And we're going to, I said we'll live unplug things, so we're going to unplug the cache drive. Whoops, cache just got broken. So, does FreeNAS keep running? Yep, the FreeNAS has got we'll go over here and show you the error, but don't worry, our benchmarks are still going away. Go over here, it's still running. FreeNAS is going to take a second, and oh look, it just let me know. Pool Orion's line, one or more devices has been removed by the administrator. Sufficient replicas exist in a pool to keep functioning in a degraded state. We lost our cache drive. So now if we go back over here to the, whoops, not sharing storage, pools, status, we see the drive was removed. So it's not there anymore. But the system is still running. We're still writing to there. So what if we remove another drive? I mean, this is a RAID Z setup. Well, actually, what RAID Z did I use here? Oh, RAID Z2. Awesome. So RAID Z2, and it's going along here and it's reading and writing, and let's pick a drive out of random here. I think the one at the top might be easy. So let's, oh, now we lost 2 drives. So now the drive at the top isn't plugged in anymore. But once again, everything just keeps running and writing, except for the drive I unplugged. We know which one it is because we see it right here. And now we've got 2 drives unplugged. We lost our cache drive, which I wonder what happens if we put the cache drive back in. Wonder if it made noise. Does it repair? Let's see. We'll refresh this status page. Refresh. Yeah, we got 2 drives. 2 drives removed. What if we can put the other drive back in? Will it fix it? Maybe. Let's stick the. Nope, it doesn't redetect it. It's. If we rebooted, it should though. That's because I have a feeling that it doesn't like that. But I bet if I reboot, it would try to re-import the drives. But yeah, we just dropped 2 drives. We're watching it read write fine. We lost the cache drive. It's not doing anything here. This drive's broke. But the Phoronix test is still running and the system's still up and going here. So despite plugging things in, we didn't pause. The VM is still, we'll go over here and look at the console, still running, uncrashed, of course. I guess we could do that so we see HTOP running or something. So we know the VM's running, and yeah, you can, it's, like I said, for a live demo, there's a couple different things. Jump all the way down to here. Ah, there we go. Well, I should have been looking at this right here. Yes, show your screen. But there we go. We switched the view back and forth. No need to reboot if using host. Okay, that's what someone said on that. Yeah, you're right. If I would have used host control. But I kind of just show this is all real time, live, dumping these files, moving these. You can see that this right here. Now, the only thing I would have to do, let's say if we want to rebuild this, and let's see where we're at with this demo running. So what do we even get for the read speed? Wow, the read speed goes crazy. That's because we did a small file test, so you can see the read speeds were way skewed by this particular test because it didn't exhaust the cache, so it gave a pretty good on there. But because we unplugged the drive, we have a higher deviation because the numbers were changing dynamically as we unplugged and plugged things back in. And what did we get for write speed? Not bad. 464 on the write speed, so not terrible for a write speed. So let's go ahead and shut this down real quick. And the reason I'm shutting it down is obviously rebooting this is definitely going to cause a outage of the VM because it'll be unavailable. But we'll just pause that real quick, and we see all the errors here in FreeNAS. Pool degraded. Yeah. Let's just restart it real quick. Because I plugged the drives back in. Now this is like surviving a loose cable. So we plugged the drives back in. I'll just reboot it. And it boots relatively fast. I actually have a screen over here. So while I'll go back and read through the questions. I know I didn't switch my screen fast enough. I didn't realize. I'll try to watch that, and we'll do it again. Because if this thing boots up in about 20, 30 seconds. Anyways, go back over here. Read cache, now remove the log drive and see how many errors you can generate. Yes, that's actually what I wanted to do. Next, we're going to add a log drive to this as well, and we'll do the same thing. Now, this orange cable here goes to this drive, and this is the log drive. Well, not yet. Will be after we reboot. So the log drive is your ZIL intent, and the ZIL write is basically writing out. So let's step back. Copy on write file system is the type of file system ZFS is. To have all that data table, it can use a temporary, I believe it's referred to as ZIL or zero intention log, and it's an intention log of where all the writes plan to be. And if you can put that on a fast, really fast drive, it has to be substantially faster than your main data array to get any benefits. Therefore, this is not going to make a big difference in performance because this is just an SSD, and not that SSDs aren't faster than the devices here, but when you look at what the ZILs are, they're usually going to be something like either an NVMe or some type of almost like a RAM drive. So the ZILs are generally have to be really fast for them to be very effective. But they do help write performance, especially in NFS situations. And this particular share is an NFS share. I am going to have to do this. Let me find a keyboard. I have a minor problem with this motherboard, and it's because this motherboard, clearly not the most recommended motherboard for FreeNAS here. I'm looking at the screen that's on the floor. It's too hard to drag it up here. It just sometimes doesn't like the boot device on this. I have to repick it. It's got a little USB as a boot device, and when I reboot it, it just decides to... Come on. It just keeps deciding to boot off the wrong drive. So what other questions can I answer when I'm on this? Did I get everyone's... Someone asked about host control for renaming the system. Let me switch to boot real quick. Look over here. Damn it. I hate boot motherboard. Motherboards won't let me choose it. I chose drive and it chose the wrong drive and saved and exited immediately. Yeah, NVMe for cache and logs, like Corey Thompson said, that is generally what you want. There we go. Booting up now. Yeah, YouTube does let you pop out the chat, and that's actually, maybe by next week I'll be doing that. I'm going to have a second monitor so I can just leave the chat and make it in the one monitor so I can read chat while having this screen on there, because it doesn't help you guys to see the chat any at all. You know, that's not very helpful. You probably, but for me to be able to read it makes a lot more sense. You can, I have not seen how well it updates, but yes, you can build a UniFi controller in FreeNAS. We actually tested as well building the UniFi video inside of a FreeNAS VM. That way, all the reading and writing it has for writing out all the data works. Unfortunately, is exciting as is that it works, seems to be actually quite well. The downside of that is UniFi video. They decided to kind of abandon their project, which is a shame because we really like this as a solution. So, what are you going to do? When you force disconnect a log, it normally forces the pool to appear unknown. Well, we're going to test that. Let's find out. And almost done. It's at the last little part of the boot. Couple more. Oh, there we go. Cool. Let's go ahead and log back in. Show your screen. Start there. Hey, look. Everything's back to normal. Nothing's broke anymore. Just all it took was a reboot. And everything's marked as healthy. It resynced it. It'll resync the drive. Matter of fact, let's go down here. Yeah, this one looks like it had a checksum error, but that's about it. When it does a scrub, it should fix that, because if something's out of date. Can we initiate a scrub right now? Probably. Actually, we do it from scrub pool. There we go. Start scrub. We'll start with a clean pool. So that's doing, sorting out any errors that may be in there. I hear them chugging away. Let's Scrub complete. Perfect. See if we have any more errors. Okay, there's still a couple checksum errors on it because it was out, but I'm not worried about that now. Let's go ahead and extend the pool again. And this time we're going to go ahead and add a log drive. Yes, we know you're going to rekey the encryption, which is good. That's what we want, rekeyed encryption. So now we have a log drive. So if we go here, we've got cache and log. All right. So let's go ahead and boot up our VM again. And in case you're wondering, when you do a reboot, as long as it didn't crash in an unknown state because the VM was shut down, XCP-ng is fine to lose that storage device, and then when you reboot the storage device, add it because it's going to check it when that VM reboots. That's why I didn't have to do anything more in XCP-ng other than boot it up. Now for this particular test, just in case I have to do anything like a restore, we'll just go ahead and add a snapshot because, you know, protection. So we'll snapshot this manual before stupid stuff. There we go. Just in case. All right, we made a snapshot of it. And what this will allow me to do is if we corrupt the VM in this whole process, I can just roll back to the snapshot to before the VM was corrupted, and it will just revert back. So that's an option, and not necessarily a bad idea, because if not, it takes not only, I don't know, maybe like 2 or 3 minutes of copying data back over here. I may as well, we got the VM set up, keep it set up. So go back over here. We should be able to just up arrow. Actually, let's just run our stupid little speed test so it writes some data. That was a lot slower. Wonder why. It's interesting. Okay, now it's happy. So let's go ahead and run the FreeNAS test, and we'll, I think we did 2, 2, 3 again. Now, I don't think there's enough data being written and committed, so the log doesn't seem to be doing much. It has to simply is not writing anything to it. I wonder, maybe we need to do this, because this will actually screw the data up. Right now, this pool is set to edit options, sync disabled. We're going to go ahead and sync always on it. That's going to kill the performance on the NFS share. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and do this. There we go. Those, now we can see the log drive getting used a lot more. So, yep, it's committing to the log drive, because when you have it forcing to synchronize everything, it ends up overrunning and the log drive gets used quite a bit to do this. It's going to devastate performance, though. You generally, for NFS shares, you want to run them with sync off if you want any real performance on there, because we went from, you know, the 400 to 600 bouncing around to, well, a really sad state of affairs here. But the point of this particular demo isn't speed, it's Tom, won't destroying the log drive break your FreeNAS? And let's go ahead and get FreeNAS kicked off. So I want data in flight all the time when we're doing this. So data in flight, and we'll let it run and ramp up a little bit. And let's see, what does anyone else have to see? Hey, Matthew Lazara, hello. How are you using free PBX with your on-call tech? Trying to figure out where free PBX switches approach to tech automatically. You call our number, and we have, our techs have extensions. So it's not like there's any necessarily automation, but if a tech is at extension XYZ, you know, you just tell them the digits you're at, and a person can call directly to that technician. We're using internally, because most of my people are sitting at their desk, we actually connect to our free PBX using the Sangoma Zulu tool, because we're using a genuine Sangoma one for that, and I like the Zulu tool quite a bit. We do have the ability, though, Zulu's really nice for forwarding, but I've used Zoiper as well. We've used Zoiper on our phones. That's a nice system as well if you're looking for a way to do it. So hopefully, Matthew, that answers your question. It's mostly just each tech gets assigned an extension, I think might be the easiest answer. That way, if someone needs to call back a specific tech, we really try to push people as much as possible towards email instead of phone calls, because that's easier. All right. Let's see, what do we have here? This is writing. Let's see what we have. Okay, good, it's writing. I see plenty of data in the log. We're going to go ahead and go over to FreeNAS. We'll get the status page. Everything's online, everything's working. And we're going to take this log drive. We'll do it first from this side. And don't worry, we'll switch screens. We'll physically... it was in there pretty good. We dropped the log drive mid-write. So what happened? Did this thing die? Let's look. No. That's working. Did the test die? No. Did the log die? Definitely. We are log free now. It is just gone. So this is the same thing, and I've had other people, and I don't know what scenario creates it, but I will tell you that yes, when the log drive dies, it's a problem, but we lost no data in flight. We did not crush the system. It did not crash. FreeNAS is up and running. Well, with the exception of, we're going to go and refresh it now. If we refresh ourselves. So besides having degraded the pool, it works. It didn't crash. It didn't destroy. And even, this is where I've had people say catastrophic power failure and things like that. And actually, that's the next thing I wanted to simulate anyways, was just force a reboot of this thing. So we dropped out the log drive, and I'll plug it back in, but we've seen these aren't very good. This is a consumer motherboard, hot plugging. It's probably kind of sort of supported, but it seems to work better after you reboot. So with that drive degraded, with it being in the middle of a write, there is a reset button. We'll look at the overhead and see it. So I got my finger on the reset button, and we're going to now do a catastrophic failure of this while it's running. Now, the only challenge I'm going to run into is it is going to make XCP-NG angry when I press this button. And button pressed. XCP-NG is going, I just lost that storage device, and I got to go force shut down the system. But I also have to press the, it's going to want to boot to the wrong hard drive, probably. So I just got to make sure I go to the boot menu. Oh, weird. This time it wanted to boot to it. Or not. Well, that's fun. The boot drive isn't showing up. We'll go power it off and power it back on. I've had that fixed when the boot drive doesn't show up. I don't know why it doesn't. It doesn't like my USB boot drive, I guess. It seems to be quite unhappy with it. Catch up on these while this is rebooting. Let's see. Try a reboot now. Oh, you know what? I think someone had a fair point. Let's do this. So I'm going to leave this drive unplugged. Someone says reboot it without the log plugged in. Fair point. So let me crash it again before it even finishes booting. All right. Now let's boot it up. Log drive, not plugged in at all. Well, they got the power plugged in, I guess. There we go. No power. No boot. We broke something else now. This live demo may have broke the motherboard. It's not coming on now. Let's try that again. You know, this board did this the other day. It just decided not to come on. And I see Eric's in the channel. Hey, Eric, does this board look familiar? This is the one Eric was having problems with when it was his workstation. It just sometimes decided it didn't want to do when you boot. And we don't know why. Hey, it's booting now. You turn it off a couple times and it comes back. It's special. All right, it's now booting FreeNAS again. So now, and this is the request. Let me see who requested this. Dump the log, and that's what said. Someone said that was when the log got dumped. That's what caused them to have the problem with the unknown array. Okay, fair enough. Let's give that a try. So, all right, we're booting up now. Oh, while we're at it, we'll go over here and we'll go fix our angry Debian, which Debian's like, hey, I don't have any hard drive. So this is what it looks like when a hard drive fails in a Linux machine. It just starts to write everything. It suddenly can't write. So we're going to go over here to advanced, force shutdown. Are you sure? Yes. And it doesn't have a drive to write to. Now, this is why we did do a snapshot. If you lose arrays in FreeNAS, it's pretty resilient. But if you're in the midst of lots of writing in a VM, you could potentially have some problems because VMs don't like their storage. It's just like anything. There's not as much fault tolerance. I mean, it's got a level of fault tolerance built in, but there can sometimes be some problems with it of trying to commit those writes. So you're at higher risk randomly losing not just a RAID array, but your entire storage of a particular VM. It's not end of the world. Come on. And sometimes it just waits, and there we go, and too long to do that. Anyways, now let's boot it back up. I'm just impatient. It does it. I just don't like to wait 20. I think it waits like 10 or 20 seconds or something. That seems unreasonable to me. Oh, this is probably going to give me an error. Yes. Because what it was trying to do was write. So now we have to rescan, connect all hosts, one of these. Actually, we'll do a disconnect. And we'll reconnect it. What it was trying to do is figure out what happened to the drives. So doing a disconnect, reconnect on the thing will probably fix any issues it might have had. It just got really confused. But let's also look at this. Let's log in and make sure we don't have that unknown pool problem that someone had mentioned. Unknown locked. Interesting. We were able to reproduce it. We certainly have an unknown pool now. Wow. So that's why it's angry. I can't reconnect it because it doesn't exist. So we, in real time, have seen the problem. So let's go ahead and do this. We'll shut down FreeNAS. Let's put the drive back in and see what happens. It shouldn't, but we definitely will file a bug report if this is the case. This is obviously not good at all. Can't have your log drive get lost and then be a problem. So we'll plug it back in and we'll reboot FreeNAS. Actually, I'm not even going to bother this. I'm just going to press the reset button. Because, you know, reset. So yes, we were able to produce the problem. Let's see if replace log drive problem goes away or not. Interesting. So you power it off. I think it doesn't like unless you power cycle completely when you unplug a hard drive. It just doesn't see, it loses the USB boot drive. It just doesn't see it anymore. So let's try that again. There we go. And we got the log drive plugged back in, and let's see if we still have an array or not. As we all wait for the FreeNAS to boot. I wish I could, I mean, I guess I could get another feed and tie it in so I could tie the boot screen into the feed for OBS and show you guys, but it's not that exciting to watch it boot. Massage the capacitors for faster reboot. Probably. Huh. So you have to force mount it. Well, I probably could have force mounted from the command line. It was not force mounting from, or wasn't mounting at all from the UI. So ideally, you should be able to do that from the UI. So that may be a whole different experience on this in terms of still booting right now. But in terms of getting this fixed, I may have to look into what the recovery method is. I've not seen this happen before. And it's been a while since we did the torture test, but we did these before. Removing the log drive didn't cause this level of devastation. So I'm interested. It's interesting that this occurred. I'm even more interested that it occurred on a live stream. Can't fake this, man. Let's see, almost changed to up, and there we go. Let's go back into FreeNAS. And it's back. So interesting it came back, but definitely without the log in there, it did not want to mount the pool. So that's in fact true. Now we will go ahead and do this as well. Status, we're going to go over to the log, and we will remove. So removing the log, I'm sure I could reboot it again and it'll work. So we're going to go over here. Let this thing think for a minute. It sees it. Cool. See if this is completely trashed or corrupted. Nope, not at all. So interesting. We definitely reproduced the problem you had there. So this may be something. And I guess the other question is, have you filed? And maybe I'll contact them as well and talk about a bug report this for what happens when the log drive is missing on boot. Why doesn't it have a fail-safe method? That would be interesting. Oh, look, recovering journal files. That's expected. So it still did its usual check disk on boot. We'll go back over to here. Back in on here. And everything's back up and running. So actually, the one thing we didn't do was the performance is still going to be terrible, so we will swap this right here. So edit options, sync disabled. There we go, and we can verify that the yep, back to happy times and working. Wasn't fast that time. There's probably some errors on the drive that need to be corrected or something. Do it a second time. Is it faster? Yeah. And of course, we can go back to this. Away we go. So that was your live entertainment of Tom screwing with FreeNAS. Hey, awesome. Thank you for the tip there. Much appreciated. The stream is breaking up. That's not good. OpenMediaVault. I don't have a use case for that. Everyone. One thing about it is, it's cool. It runs Linux. I like that. But the other side of that is the, I mean, cool. But to my knowledge, and I can double check this, but unless they've changed something, open. To my knowledge, how to install and how to use, but it's not natively supported. Like, you can add on, I guess, the ZFS support, but it's not part of their native support, to my knowledge. Unless that's recently changed. And if it's not ZFS, then it's not where I want to store my data long term for high volumes of data. I mean, it's not a terrible product or anything like that. I don't have. Matter of fact, wow, doesn't this look familiar? They've, updated it apparently, so that's nice. Modern UI, cool. It looks good. Looks a lot. I mean, this looks so similar to something like maybe. Hold on, what page were they on? So this was how they manage their services page. What if we went to our services page? Do they look similar in some way? Interesting. This is a very familiar look with the little up and down tabs and and then the jails, and then the little down tabs again. Oh, interesting. That's familiar. Anyone think they look a little bit alike? So I don't know. I mean, I don't have a reason not to use FreeNAS. There's not anything that there's not anything that I can think of that OpenMediaVault has that I need that ZFS doesn't. And ZFS has due to its size and number of developers, has an absolutely incredible track record. And of course, the other side of now that they're merging the code bases, that's particularly cool. But we've installed these, and we just finished the sale today. We closed on it. Let's look at the paper. Tell you how many petabytes it is, or how exactly one was petabyte drives. It was a really high performance system. It was north of $50,000 system that we just sold running the FreeNAS operating system from IX Systems. I mean, we've facilitated some very high end sales on these, and they just work. They perform at scale. So if you're looking for something budget, one of the cool things I do know, and I think OpenMediaVault is the one that supports this, is they support some of the single board computers. So if you're looking for really low wattage, low cost external storage with a network adapter, they make a cool box for that. If you're looking for scalable, really high-end levels of storage, well, that's where you get into FreeNAS. It's just it scales to a much, much larger scale. And one of the things, we had a conversation that was really interesting. Now, I don't know this to be true, and I'm not going to say the name, but it was some commercial product, and I don't remember it anyway, so good news is I can't say. We worked with a film and movie company where we're still engaging with them right now, and they switched everything over to ZFS because I'm talking like really expensive equipment they have here. They're shooting on like, your Epic Red type cameras. They had some bit rot on old footage, and they just could not get that data. Even though there was nothing wrong, no drives had failed, they had data that every time they pulled it off just was full of corruption that it wasn't before, and they had used it not that long before. So they were really worried about bit rot, and that's something ZFS has done a great job of protecting against for long-term data storage that you kind of like, keep on all these arrays. So the resilience of it, with the exception of this weird problem we just had with the log drive, which, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, any FreeNAS system set up with the log ZIL drives are always set up in pairs of mirrors. So they're specifically built for a level of resilience on there. But Yeah, so any of those issues you may have with this, there's probably a way to recover it. And I'll dig into that. That'll be kind of a fun side topic because I haven't seen it before, so it's probably a bug. But I don't think any of the data was gone because, well, we were, like someone even said, they could force mount the pool. And if doing that's a solution, it's not a great idea. I mean, because I would rather just do it through the UI, but being able to go to the command line, ZFS, all the ZFS command line options do work inside of FreeNAS. So, anyways, what do we have here? I'm trying to read up all the comments here. Yep, OMV will run on a Raspberry Pi. That's cool. That's a good use case for it. I think that's neat. Other than XCP-ng, do you use Linux to replace any Windows servers such as Print80 file server? Yes, no. It is very dependent on the customer. Never as an 80 server. Matter of fact, everyone I know that runs one as an 80 because of all the, as they've grown as a company and all the hangups they run into in compatibility, they're usually switching it back to Windows. I don't like it. I'm a Linux fanboy, and I'm still telling you of all the trouble you'll have with it. It's one of those things like just sometimes buying the basic Windows license works better for them on that. It can be done, but it's not like we try to put that in there for people. And anymore, we're seeing more and more people move things to the cloud where it becomes irrelevant. It's going to become to the point where your operating system is less relevant and people can start moving away from Windows. Well, and consumers are going to go more towards something like a Chromebook. It's not like I think all the market is going towards it, but I think there's going to be more Chromebook style behavior where you've got a browser attached to the keyboard for a lot of your end users because they just need to get into their applications and get things done. More and more companies are working on clients like that because it doesn't make a lot of sense not to have things set up as a web application. So when you use a Zero Cache on FreeNAS, if you use two SSDs, will it set up as a mirror? Yes. Yeah, when you're building out the array, you can build them out as mirrors. You can stripe them, you can mirror them. So anytime you're using a pair of them, those options are there. So definitely an option. Having to overload RAM when I build my server, is that what I worry about with FreeNAS? So one of the things that you're seeing reasonable performance out of this system. So let's go over here and look at this FreeNAS. This FreeNAS has a reasonably fast processor in it. It's a Core i7 4770K. This is not, I don't even know when this processor came out. Let's find out how old it is. 2013, so it's 7-year-old processor. Granted, it's a nice processor. It's a 4th gen Core i7, but we only have 8 gigs of RAM in here. We do not have a lot of RAM. And if we start rebuilding the arrays and we build something even bigger, let's put a handful of drives in this, for example, and we want to build an even bigger setup, it still works quite well. You don't necessarily need, and I have this at home, I have a FreeNAS array with a low amount of RAM, but it still performs quite well. Now, more memory, and let's go over here to the reporting, and specifically what the memory is used for. The more memory you have committed towards caching, the better. So if you have a lot of file reads going all the time, you would like to have more memory in this so those file reads can be committed to memory. Now we do have this orange representing the level 2 cache, it's the level 2 cache right here. But overall, you really want more RAM because RAM is going to be faster. But you don't need to have an absolute ton of it unless, depending on how much performance. So right now, with the VM running, we have just one VM sitting here, which actually, let's go ahead and it was running some benchmarks. And you see the benchmarks, about 464 on write. So reasonable write speed with a handful of, I mean, these are, let's find them on eBay. I'm running 1 gig Constellation 2.5 inch. Oh, these are a little bit more than expected. Those are brand new. They're $40 a piece. There we go. These are the drives I'm running. I'm sure there's some bulk amount of them you can find on eBay for cheap. So we have 5 of them here. So $32 a piece. These are the same drives that I have running in here. They're relatively cheap. And I'm getting in the VM performance here without any real messing with it other than, I mean, we can take the cache drive out and it's not going to make a substantial difference. And, you know, average write after going through all this on this crappy setup of 464 megs a second on performance with how big of the file? Writing 2 gig files to the disk. We could probably run this over again and write smaller files. So 2, but 512 files, and we're going to test the write performance specifically, and I'll probably get writing a bunch of smaller files, and depending on what your workload is, maybe that makes more sense. But you can see you can get a pretty decent performance out of some cheap drives, a 8 gig of RAM system. Now, if we bump that up to even more memory, you're going to get more. But even right now, we're only using ZFS cache, 2 gigs of cache, and 4 gigs are not doing anything right now. There's a lot of people that would say you need, as a rule of thumb, for every terabyte of storage, you need 1 gigabyte of RAM. That doesn't scale out quite so well. At some point, you're just wasting money buying memory that you're not using. So if there's not enough repeated functions being called. Now, let's say you have a video editing scenario. In a video editing scenario, you do pull a little bit more memory. And matter of fact, let's look at my other FreeNAS, which has a lot more memory in it. Not too much. That video was kind of short I edited. When I edit a lot of videos, this will definitely fill up quite a bit more RAM space used. The reason why, I'm pulling the same video files and editing them, so it starts just sticking those videos and the different assets I'm doing when I'm doing my editing workflow and running this off of FreeNAS. It just starts sticking in RAM, so once they've pulled once, and it goes, oh, let me just stick all that in RAM because you're probably going to ask for it again, so you get a much better performance. That's good for video. With my son playing his games, we still haven't upgraded the FreeNAS at home, but we're running it as our Steam library, and it would definitely benefit more memory. We're still running it with a low amount of memory. More memory would definitely be helpful, but I just want to see how long we can get away with, and I just don't feel like taking it and opening it up and sticking more memory. And it's on my to-do list, but it's not on my done list. But you can see there is some benefit to building a FreeNAS with more memory, but it's not necessary. It will function perfectly fine. I hope that answers the question in a very long-winded way. Bash the like button, please. Barbecue pork chops. Yeah, if you have spare parts ready to go, you never use them. That's true. Headless Steam server. I've not messed with any of that. I've heard that it can be a pain to set up. Should I use an SSD as a cache? It doesn't really help substantially because there's just too much. I mean, it really comes back to use case. I guess if you're doing video editing and you thought that the drives are slow, so you put a cache in there. But you got to remember, I have 5 drives in here. So I'm aggregating, and we'll actually show that right here. So, we still got about the same performance with different size here. But what you're doing when we go here, and we'll just run 4 kilobit test this time, but we'll do record. Yeah, we'll do a record size of 1. So 113. When you're doing this, you're getting the performance not of a single drive. So your SSD is much faster individually than one of these drives, but cumulatively, all 5 of these drives committing these writes is a whole lot faster. So 5 drives pushing data back and forth means there's a lot more going on in terms of it starts pulling all the data back and forth between all the drives, so you get a much better performance in any single drive. There's also other ways you can boost your performance. You could split the VDEVs up. So let's say I have 10 drives. I can make 5 in one VDEV, 5 in another VDEV, and that may give me a little bit better performance on the read performance, for example. And then the cache SSD makes a little bit less sense at that point. Now, an NVMe SSD might make a little more sense because they're faster, but once again, think about it. You're pulling all the data off of here. Do you keep pulling the same data over and over and over again? If you do, then a cache makes sense. If you're not pulling the same data repetitively, the caching doesn't do a whole lot for you at that point. It just doesn't have any real world benefits. Yeah, NVMe, definitely, like I said, they're definitely faster. Yeah, F for Dozer degraded. It's on my to-do list to fix it. It's full of problems right now. It's old. It's on its last leg. It's got backups. So what is the white hat looking thing on there? Well, that's one of these. This is a site-to-site dish. I got to do a video on this. I haven't done it yet. I mean, it kind of looks like a hat. You're not wrong, but it's not a hat. It's just the beam dish for a cadmium network. We got some cadmium stuff sitting over there I got to do some videos on. Maybe that'll happen soon. I see Steve over there learning FreeNAS. He's playing and building a system as well, so.
You want me to set up some cadmium stuff?
No, you should learn FreeNAS first. One thing at a time.
I already played with those routers. I love those.
Yeah, we should probably do a video soon on them. Oh, what other FreeNAS related questions do we have? I'm getting tired. We're not tired. It can only talk for so long before I run out of stuff to talk about. Maybe, I don't know. What are the other questions we have for me in here besides the hat question? Is there Ubiquiti outdoor AP that can survive a Michigan winter? All the ones we've put up. So we've put up a couple different ones. We've put up both the Pro, the Mesh Pro outdoor. We've put up the little rabbit ear. This what is that one called? Just the AC Mesh, I think is what that one's called. But we put both of them up and we have them outside and they work perfectly fine. So I have seen that there's apparently, in regards to the FreeNAS and the jails, so yes, there's definitely some bugs in that. I don't have all the answers on it. I've seen this myself playing around, and I don't know if it's based on the network card or whatever, but let's actually look at the, let's go to a jail. And this has a 10 gig card in it right now. As a matter of fact, let's do this. Actually, so we go here, 132, 131. So no problem, we're getting 10 gigs, right? So what happens if we turn the jail on, but we also put the jail in a VLAN. Can't remember if you did that here or we had to create the VLAN. I did a video on it, but I just don't use jails and VLANs very often. They can be super picky to use. That's right, you have to pick it and then name it here. But you are correct. Actually, let's just do this. Just starting the jail, we'll see if it causes a problem. But I think some of the cards, and this varies, and I don't have an exhaustive list of this, I think there are definitely some problems if you do that. Some cards don't seem to do well in that scenario. So let's actually just see what happens. Yeah, see, this is what I've seen. I haven't even turned a VLAN on, but this happens. When the jails are running, some of the cards, and this Mellanox card apparently is among them, definitely seem to have a problem. But now you can see it's going back and forth. It's not consistent, but there is definitely an issue there when you start a jail. Refresh it because it should be started now. So jail's running. And we're seeing a performance hit just by turning the jail on. And I don't know if it does this. I've seen it on, I think, of our two systems. I got to look at each of the cards. I've seen some cards do this and some cards not. So it's one of those, now that it's off, we're back up to full speed. I don't know the answer for that one either. it's some way it does the sharing of the network card. I don't know if there's a bug report I can file for it because there's not necessarily a bug. Well, it kind of is. Let's go back to the D message here. Does it have anything? Down, down, down. Yeah, this right here. These are the errors I got. So, due to TX checksum, disable due to TX checksum. So apparently it does the checksum offloading breaks, and that must be what's causing it. I don't know if there's any fix for it, but it's a good question. I have seen that before, and yeah. I had to create a bridge and then added the bridge. Okay. I don't know. So I would probably have to pop out the Mellanox card, try an Intel, and go back and forth on it. So it is an interesting question, and I guess the question that's even further is which cards do work, and I have more cards. I've got, I don't know what card this is. I think this is it's a Chelsea O card. So I have this Chelsea IO card. Maybe this one works better. I don't know. One of the things I do know is this motherboard gets very unhappy with Intel cards. I have Intel cards, and this motherboard won't post with Intel cards in it. I don't know why. It just freezes. So you pop an Intel card in, and that's where it stops. So I can't test the Intels in this particular machine. I can test the Intels in a Dell over here to see if they support it. So it's definitely a bug, but it has to do with the BSD drivers for 10 gig network cards. So there's not an easy answer for that one. Short answer is it works, but it doesn't work well because only, losing performance on there. Because obviously if it's losing performance on just a iPerf test, how much more performance? Matter of fact, that's an interesting number. So right now, if we run that, write some data to it, nice and fast here. Let's start the jail. And do we lose drive performance on it? Jail is up. Yeah, these are just unscheduled boots. So jail is up and running. It doesn't seem to affect that at all. So I don't know. I mean, it certainly iPerf broke, but iPerf is saturating it versus some disk writes aren't going to saturate it as much. Not at this level. We'd have to probably come up with a few more disks to actually saturate it. We could do that. Because this is also where caching will probably help more. So we're going to go ahead and fast clone this. And then we'll fast clone this. We'll fast clone this. There we go. Start the clones. Whoops. So let's go ahead and stupid buttons, mouse problems. Stupid. That was easier. I should have done that in the first place. Let's fire up all the clones and see what happens. We should push this a lot harder. Oh. Wait. Oh, it started some of them on the other pool. That's all. That's fine. They can start on other pools. That's strange. So this one started on this pool, but they all started because they all have this. They all have the same storage, so they all started on that storage. Now we can go back over to pool. Whoops, not pool. Storage. While those all boot, and what does FreeNAS? What say you, FreeNAS? We go to reporting. Yeah, it's probably going to fill the cache up a little more, but this is where we started them right here. Click down here. Now the real trick would be and I didn't set up Ansible on these to coordinate all of them, would be to take these and run the same command on all of them at once. We could do it on an individual basis, but that would probably, now that I'm running multiple VMs doing the same in here, yeah, all of them booted. So this one's doing something. That's updating that. You get the idea, though. The cache is probably going to get a little bit more used. Let's go to the dashboard here. Not much more. Just a little. The slice got just a little bit bigger because these aren't exactly pulling a bunch of different data. But this is another use case for cache if you have a lot of similar VMs, and it may be able to figure it out, and you're relying on FreeNAS to do this at the file level. It may go, hey, this data kind of looks the same going down the pipe, and it may cache some of it. That's kind of a wild card, though. But it may help some. Ain't no much writing going on right now. Anyways, what other questions do we have? Update the video and port forwarding. I don't know. Oh, come on. Ansible's fun. I don't know what else more you would want to see on port forwarding. I've got it covered. I don't. Maybe some, I don't know. I guess I need to know what is missing from it. It's pretty complete. It tells you how to port forward. I don't know what else is missing from that particular video. I show how to port forward from more than one interface, from more than one IP address and 2 different IP addresses, but I'm not sure what else is missing from it. So there may be some network concepts that you don't have that I don't know how to fill the gap on because I don't know what gap you have on that. So anyways, we did kind of cover, and just follow me on, if you go look at my Twitter account or go to, a matter of fact, the last video I did on the SMRs, which was 2 videos ago, I think, the last video I did, I referenced Western Digital's blog post. Western Digital updated their blog post. So they definitely, have more information now than even when I did the video. And they're starting to tell you which drives have it and which drives don't. So that's the follow-up on the SMR. So Mark, you're looking for a network class on how NAT works. That's a whole different topic than showing you how to port forward in pfSense. I mean, NAT's a pretty cool function that's been around for quite a while to solve the problem of we don't have enough IP addresses, so some IP addresses are private, so we NAT them. I'm sure there's at least a handful of YouTube videos on NAT. It's been around for a while. I don't know if I'm the best to produce one on it. I usually produce tutorials on specific things, not necessarily, but sometimes I do produce them on concepts. It all depends on how I want to sit down and lay things out. So I don't know. As you can tell, I'm kind of getting distracted and tired. I have a couple more things I got to do before I finish the day here, because I usually wrap it up around 7 here. So is there any other questions for the good of the class before we take this all apart and I start the next? Well, I'm going to show how to do the, if I don't drop them, how to do the mismatch VDEVs for expansion. I haven't done a video like that since 2018. I will dig more into, at some point in time, the log issue. Thank you for bringing that up. That was interesting to see that when you drop the log device that the FreeNAS doesn't boot. That was something we all learned together there. I bet IT Pro TV has a talk on that. You're right, they do. They have a lot of network fundamentals. By the way, sponsors, IT Pro TV, I did a review of them. And someone I seen asked me what I thought of CBT Nuggets. I haven't used CBT Nuggets. I read some reviews beforehand, and I guess they use more of a slideshow presentation style. This is what I was told. I didn't really dig into CBT Nuggets. CBT Nuggets is also a little bit more. IT Pro TV, I just like the way they did things. It feels more like the way I do things, the way they do their demos, the way they have their camera angles set up. I thought it was more the way I do demos, so I found it more appealing. But so I thought maybe my audience would as well. So hopefully that makes sense on that. What RAID Z layout was the 5-drive server running? This is running just RAID Z1. So I think, hold on, let's look. We can look together because I don't actually know that to be true. I'm guessing that to be true. Let me get these out of the way. Those are over there now. So I feel as though if we go over here to storage pool. Oh, Z2. I was wrong. So I thought it was Z1. These are Z2. So we can destroy them and make them that. So plus we can do this. I think we're done with these. We've got enough. Well, before we leave, we're going to destroy the pool. So let's go ahead and stop all those FreeNASs. Debian on FreeNAS. All right, we can get rid of all of these now. More. Remove. Delete 4 VMs. There we go. Make sure I'm deleting the right 4. And they're gone. They don't exist anymore. Then we go over here to storage. And I don't think, yep, there's no, doesn't matter. We can remove, actually disconnect from all hosts. If you don't disconnect it before you remove it, sometimes it gives an error. Then we're going to forget it. Forget about you. And it's disappearing. It's purging all record it had of this device. And then we can just, once it's gone, I don't know if it actually cleans up any of the files. Let's look. Did it do any housekeeping? Yeah. Well, it left one file, so it more or less did housekeeping. It still left one. So there's still at least one piece in there. Because once we've done that, so I don't have to worry about it having any errors, we can go here, pools. Whoops. Export, disconnect. Yeah, destroy jails on this pool. Confirm. ORION. Poof. Oh. Yeah, restart services. Poof. It's all gone now. Everything's gone, all the data. Start it back over, start the process, build the next one. So you've been watching Vlog Thursday, episode 180. Is there any other questions? I always ask that, but I'm just eventually... Oh, hey, thank you, Marco DePinto. Thanks for all the videos provided, and not as expensive as hiring me. Yeah, it's cheaper just to watch my videos. Hey, awesome. I love when people throw money at me. Thank you. Any more? Dollars, throw them over here. Fills buffers, ZFS kicks the drive out. Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, if you ever resilver a non-SMR drive, you should be fine. Yeah, that's, you don't want to have to resilver an SMR drive. That's where the problem comes in. I covered that in the video, so. Hopefully that makes a lot of sense. Because SMR drives read good, they just write terribly. So that's where the thing is. Thank you very much, Swill4103. What's in the R720? I don't know. I think it tells me somewhere. Let's look. I don't think about these things near as often as other people do. Matter of fact, I will log into the... I covered that in a video. I think I have a video review of the 720. By the way, speaking of sponsors, this was brought to you by Tech Supply Direct because they're where I bought these servers from. The server behind me I'm going to review, the server that I'm logging into right now. So, and this has, what processor? Hardware. There we go. I don't know what's in a 730. I don't feel like turning it on. You're gonna have to wait for the video on that one. But this one's turned on, so I can tell you. CPU. Oh, I don't care. I have the stupid inventory thing turned off. These are Xeon E5 2670s at 2.7 gigahertz. So hopefully that makes the hardware people happy to now know they are Xeon E5 2670s. So awesome. Oh, thank you. It is much appreciated. Aereo Bohm, thank you very much for the $20 donation. It's really appreciated. I'm working on some, I'm going to have to end up with some more advertisers on there. I don't know if you, and probably none of you do, but like when it comes to the way creators are paid, Amazon decided to, as of this week, start screwing us because, you know, Amazon hit $1.1 trillion in worth and then cut all the commissions they pay out for affiliate links. So I don't know, I got to look and see what our new rates are, but I know they're less than they used to be. I think there might even be half. So they're literally, after setting up a program to set up affiliate links, and we go through all the work of setting them up, they're like, oh, no, we're just cutting all that in half now when people click those affiliate links. Screw you guys who helped and supported us. And well, it's not like it's a money thing. They're literally reporting record profits while cutting, after their record profits, we're going to screw those other guys over there. So, is what it is. Such is life of dealing with them. But that's why it's so much appreciated. Because I don't want to have to... I don't want to have to sell Casper mattresses like every other person on YouTube and podcasts do. I'm hoping to find better. I do like the sponsors we have, and I've tried to keep it down to the affiliates. And having affiliates is awesome. So if you have a service you want to use, I have an affiliate link. That way I don't have to spiel too much at the beginning of every video about it and have a pre-roll ad that you are forced in there. But we do have to keep the lights on. It takes a lot to do all this, so I'm not gonna lie. I enjoy doing it. I do monetize by people hiring us, and it does well. But the other side of it is still, I have a lot of time. This takes a lot to produce all these videos and produce all these demos and things like that to put in there. So Bezos is sucking. Yeah, Bezos sucks. So I'm not thrilled with. I'm not sure what the concept was behind cutting the affiliate commissions. I don't really understand. So, but that's life. That's how things go. So, all right. Thank you for watching, and see you guys next week. But I'll probably have more videos in between, including more videos on this particular topic and this particular rig we have sitting here. Thanks.